The moment my wife stepped through the airport doors, she looked straight at me and said, "I missed you." I had spent 3 months waiting to hear those words, imagining the moment I would finally hold her again. But before I could even reach for her, another man walked toward her, calmly took her suitcase from her hand, and called her by a name I had never heard before. In that instant, the crowded airport seemed to go completely silent. I stood there with flowers in my hand, watching the woman I had loved for 11 years walk beside a stranger as if I had never existed. Before we go deeper into this emotional story, if you believe people deserve kindness, second chances, and the opportunity to explain their side before being judged, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes in true love, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue bringing you stories that remind us there is often much more behind a painful moment than what our eyes can see. My name is Nathan, and this happened at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport in Texas. My wife, Claire, had been working on a temporary project in Chicago for 3 months. It wasn't the first time work had separated us, but this time felt different. Before she left, we'd been struggling. Nothing dramatic had happened. There had been no huge betrayal or terrible argument. Instead, little things had slowly built walls between us. Bills, exhaustion, long workdays, and the constant pressure of trying to keep our lives together had made us strangers living under the same roof. Claire said she needed space, and I told her I understood. But every night after she left, I realized how much I had taken her presence for granted. For 3 months, I kept our house exactly the way she liked it. I watered the plants she loved, fed the stray cat she had adopted, and even learned how to make the coffee she always complained I made too strong. I never told her about those little things. I wanted her to have her space. Then, 2 days before her flight home, she sent me a short message saying she was coming back earlier than expected. I read that message nearly 20 times. I went to the store and bought her favorite flowers. I cleaned the entire house. I even wore the blue shirt she once told me made me look handsome. When I saw her walking toward the arrivals area, my heart nearly broke from happiness. She looked tired but beautiful. Her eyes found mine, and for a moment, everything felt normal again. She walked toward me and quietly said that she had missed me. I smiled, stepped forward, and opened my arms. But then a tall man in a gray coat appeared beside her. Without hesitation, he reached for her suitcase. Claire handed it to him. The man smiled at her with the comfort of someone who knew her well, and then he looked at me. I remember staring at his hand on her luggage and feeling something inside me collapse. I asked who he was, but Claire seemed frozen. The man introduced himself as Michael and said he had only been helping her because one of the suitcase wheels had broken. But there was something about the way Claire looked at him that frightened me. It wasn't romance. It was fear. Real fear. I noticed her fingers trembling. She kept looking toward Michael, then toward me, as if she desperately wanted to tell me something but couldn't find the courage. Michael finally placed the suitcase down and told me that Claire had asked him not to leave her alone at the airport. That sentence made my stomach turn. I thought the worst. I wondered if she had met someone else during those 3 months. I wondered if our marriage had ended without me knowing. Then Michael reached into his coat and pulled out a small envelope. He handed it to me and said it belonged to Claire. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a hospital document and a photograph of Claire sitting beside an elderly woman in a hospital bed. I recognized the woman immediately. It was Claire's mother, Margaret, who I believed had passed away 8 years earlier. My heart stopped. Claire finally explained everything. Her mother hadn't died. Years earlier, Margaret had disappeared after suffering a serious mental health crisis. Claire's family had been told she was gone, and Claire had spent years believing she had lost her forever. But during Claire's work trip, she received a message from a social worker in Chicago who had discovered Margaret living in a care facility under another surname. Claire had secretly traveled to see her. Michael wasn't her lover. He was Margaret's social worker. Claire hadn't told me because she was ashamed. She had been carrying guilt for years, believing that somehow she had abandoned her mother. She feared that if she came home and told me the truth, I would think she had lied to me about everything. She had planned to bring her mother to Texas and surprise me after arranging proper care. But the biggest surprise was still waiting for me. Claire told me that while she was in Chicago, she realized something painful. She had spent years running from her past, while I had been quietly standing beside her, waiting for her to let me in. She said she finally understood that marriage wasn't about never having secrets or never making mistakes. It was about finding the courage to tell the truth before those secrets became walls. I looked at the woman I had nearly accused of betraying me. Then I looked at Michael, who had only been trying to help her bring her mother home. Suddenly, the suitcase that had seemed like proof of betrayal became something completely different. It was carrying clothes for an elderly woman who had been forgotten by the world. I took Claire's hand. She started crying, and so did I. We didn't fix 11 years of marriage in one airport. We didn't erase every argument or every painful night. But we finally did something we hadn't done in a long time. We stopped pretending we were okay and started telling each other the truth. 3 weeks later, Margaret moved into a small assisted living community near our home. Claire visited her every afternoon. I joined her whenever I could. Slowly, our house became noisy again. There were family dinners, awkward conversations, old photographs, and even laughter. Sometimes I think about that airport. I remember the flowers in my hand, the stranger taking my wife's bag, and the terrible story my mind created in only a few seconds. I had been ready to walk away from my marriage because of something I didn't understand. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who may need a reminder not to judge too quickly, and subscribe for more emotional stories about love, forgiveness, and second chances. And before the story ends, I want you to leave a special comment. I will choose understanding before judgment. Maybe someone reading your comment today needs exactly that reminder. Because sometimes the person standing beside the suitcase isn't the person stealing someone you love. Sometimes they're simply helping carry the weight of a story you haven't heard yet. And sometimes, before walking away from someone forever, all it takes is one question, one moment of patience, and one honest conversation to discover that the love you thought was lost was still standing right there, waiting for you to understand. If you'd like, I can also create the complete SEO package for the story, including a viral title, description, keywords, hashtags, thumbnail text, and disclaimer.